It was a cold, cloudy night at St. Elm's University, a sprawling campus tucked into a quiet corner of the city. The kind of night where the moon barely peeked through the thick clouds, and the world felt darker than usual. For the students, it was just another rotation of night guard duty, a tradition meant to instill responsibility but often dismissed as a chore. Each class was responsible for sending 5 or 6 boys for the task, and tonight it was Class 4B's turn. The rules were simple. Guard your assigned post, stick to your flashlight, and above all, don't abandon your station to goof off. But let's be real, these were 18 and 19-year-olds, and rules like that, they were more like suggestions. The group assigned that night wasn't exactly the disciplined type. There was Adam, the self-proclaimed leader, who laughed at the idea of taking anything seriously. "It's just standing around in the dark," he'd joked earlier. "What's the worst that could happen?" Beside him was Jamie, the class clown, who'd already packed snacks like they were going to a picnic. Then there was Liam, quiet and reserved, always going along with whatever the others decided. And 2 others, Ethan and Connor, who usually stayed in the background but couldn't resist joining in when the group got rowdy. The campus was massive, with pitch-black corners where the old lampposts hadn't worked in years. The university claimed it was still on the progress of being replaced, and it only added more to the eerie atmosphere. Each student was assigned a post, armed with nothing but a flashlight and strict orders not to leave their station. But as the clock ticked toward the 3 a.m., the isolation and the oppressive darkness began to weigh on them. The silence wasn't peaceful, it was suffocating. The kind of quiet where every small sound, a twig snapping, the wind rustling, felt like something watching you from the shadows. By 3 a.m., Adam had had enough. Standing alone at his post with his flashlight barely piercing the inky blackness, he felt the primal fear that comes with staring into the unknown. The cold air bit at his skin, and the silence seemed louder than it had any right to be. "Screw this," Adam muttered to himself, grabbing his flashlight and heading toward Jamie's post. It didn't take long before the others joined in. Jamie, relieved to see Adam, quickly convinced Ethan and Connor to join, and Liam followed without question. Within minutes, the 5 of them were walking together, their flashlights bouncing along the narrow path. "Man, this is so boring," Jamie said, munching on a bag of chips. "I swear, this is just a punishment disguised as tradition." "Scared, Jamie?" Adam teased, smirking. "Don't worry. If the boogeyman comes, I'll protect you." Jamie snorted. "Yeah, right. If anything shows up, you'll be the first one running." They laughed, their voices carrying into the night, masking the unease they all felt. As they walked, their path brought them closer to the small lake near the dormitory, a quiet, still body of water that had been the subject of campus rumors for years. "Did you guys hear about the girl who drowned here?" Connor asked, his voice quieter now. "Oh, come on," Adam groaned. "It's probably not even real." "No, seriously," Connor insisted. "They say she was a freshman. First week here, she wandered too close to the water at night. Tripped, fell in, and no one found her until morning. They said she was found bloated because her body was in the water for too long." The group fell quiet, their flashlights bobbing on the path ahead. Jamie broke the silence, his voice unsteady. "Man, that's creepy. You couldn't pay me to go there alone at night." "Same," Ethan muttered. "It's pitch black out here. If you fell in, no one would even know." "Let's just keep moving," Adam said sharply, trying to mask his own unease. "It's just a stupid story." The others didn't argue, but their pace slowed down knowing they would soon have to walk through the lake. "Who's that?" Liam pointed. The group turned, their flashlight beams converging on a figure up ahead. "A girl?" Liam muttered. She dressed in the white blouse of the university uniform, walking slowly across the path near the lake. Her long black hair swayed as she moved, her steps deliberate but silenced. At first, they didn't think much of it because clearly they could all see her. "Probably one of the girls from the dorms," Ethan said, though his voice lacked confidence. "Hey!" Adam called out, his voice carrying across the still air. The girl didn't respond. She didn't even look their way. Instead, she kept walking, her figure barely illuminated by their flashlights. "Creepy," Jamie muttered, shivering. "Who just walks around here in the middle of the night?" As they got closer, the girl seemed to fade. Not in a supernatural way, but like she was walking out of their flashlight's reach. No matter how they angled their beams or tried to get closer, they couldn't seem to get a clear look at her. Then, without warning, she was gone. The group stopped in their tracks. No one spoke. The air felt colder, heavier, as if the darkness around them had grown thicker. Where'd she go?" Connor whispered. Adam swallowed hard, his bravado gone. "She probably turned off the path," he said, though he didn't sound convinced. "Did you see her feet?" Jamie asked, his voice shaking. "I didn't hear any footsteps. She didn't make a sound." "That's enough," Adam snapped, his voice louder than he intended. Let's head back." They didn't argue. Without another word, they turned and began walking, their path tilting away from the lake. As they turned their back to it, they felt chills creeping behind their neck, like someone was right behind them, but no one dared turn back to look. By the time they reached the university's brightest lit area, a cluster of lampposts near the main courtyard, they were all on edge. They huddled together, not even bothering to pretend they weren't scared. It wasn't long before the campus security guard found them. He was an older man, gruff and no nonsense, and he didn't look happy.
"What are you all doing here? You're supposed to be at your posts,"
he yelled angrily. Adam opened his mouth to respond, but the guard cut him off.
"Don't even try to explain. You kids don't know the first thing about responsibility. You think you can just wander around and leave your stations? What if something happened? Huh? Get back to your post before I report this to the administration. Now."
The group muttered half-hearted apologies and shuffled away, too shaken to argue. They didn't explain what they'd seen. The guard wouldn't have believed them anyway. By morning, they agreed not to talk about it. Whatever had happened near the lake, it wasn't something they wanted to relive. But every now and then, when someone on campus mentioned the girl who drowned, they felt the same chill run down their spines. My name is Anne, and I'll never forget the night I kept watch over my grandma's coffin. In our culture, when someone passes, it's tradition to keep the body at home for 49 days. During this time, we guard it. Family members take turns, day and night. It's to honor the dead and ensure no cats jump over the body, which would bring bad omens. After 49 days, the soul is said to fully accept their death and come home to rest. Grandma was everything to us. She practically raised me and my cousins, taught us how to cook, scolded us when we fought, and laughed with us over little things. Losing her felt like a piece of our family's heart was ripped away. Even now, the house felt empty without her warm voice echoing through the halls. It was the 49th night, the last night before she would rest. My cousins Long and Fu and I were taking the final shift. We were all tired from the weeks of mourning, and the sorrow still hung heavy in the air. After growing up, Long and Fu rarely came to visit, but now we all shared the same loss. The coffin sat in the center of the living room, surrounded by flickering incense sticks and red lights. They say it's good for chasing the bad spirits away and pleasing for the late ones. The faint scent of sandalwood lingered in the air, and the dim light cast long shadows against the walls. It was quiet, too quiet. Around midnight, Long stretched his arms and yawned. "I'm starving," he said. "You guys want me and Fu to grab some food? There's a noodle stall still open down the street." Fu nodded eagerly. "Yeah, we'll be quick. What about you, Anne?" I hesitated but nodded. "Sure, just don't take too long." They promised they'd be back in 15 minutes and left, their footsteps fading into the night. I was alone. The quiet was suffocating. I kept glancing at the coffin, the incense smoke curling into strange shapes. The room felt colder, like the warmth had been sucked out. I rubbed my arms, telling myself it was just the fatigue getting to me. And then I heard it. A faint sound. It was almost like someone giggling. I froze. It was soft at first, like the laugh of an old woman. Then came a cough, dry and rattling. My throat tightened. "It's just my imagination," I whispered to myself. "I'm tired, that's all." I tried to focus on my phone, scrolling aimlessly, but the sound didn't stop. It grew louder, closer. My heart raced as I darted a glance at the coffin, but everything looked the same. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me. I needed to get out of there. I stood up, my legs trembling, and walked toward the washroom at the back of the house. "Just need to take care of some business," I muttered, trying to calm myself. But deep down, I knew I was hiding. The washroom was small and cramped, the cold tile floor against my bare feet. I sat on the toilet seat, trying to steady my breathing. "It's nothing," I told myself. "Long and Fu will be back soon." But the silence was worse in here. It pressed against my ears, and every small noise felt magnified. And then I heard it. The creak of the hardwood floor, coming from the direction of the coffin. The sound was heavy and slow, like someone was walking barefoot. The groaning of the wood echoed through the empty halls. "No," I whispered. "It's not real. It's not real." I clenched my fists, squeezing my eyes shut, but the footsteps grew louder. They were coming closer. My breath hitched as the groaning sound turned into something else. A low, raspy groan, like someone struggling to breathe. "Grandma?" I croaked, my voice barely audible. The steps stopped just outside the washroom door. The groaning was so close it felt like it was right in front of me. My chest tightened, and I turned my head toward the wall, unable to look. "Grandma, please," I whispered. The noise stopped. For a moment, there was only silence, followed by a small ringing in my ears. When I opened my eyes, I was in my room. The sunlight streamed through the window, and I was drenched in sweat. My clock read 1 p.m. "When did I fall asleep?" I muttered. My head throbbed as I tried to piece together the night. I was waiting for Long and Fu. I remembered the sounds, the footsteps, the groaning. But how did I get here? As I lay there, my memory slowly came back. The last thing I remembered was walking into the house at 5 in the morning, my body heavy with exhaustion. My cousins were asleep on the couch, emptied bowls of noodles on the table. Even now, I don't know what happened. Was it just a nightmare, or was it something else? All I know is that Grandma loved us. Maybe she wanted to remind us of her presence, or maybe she wasn't ready to leave just yet. It was late August in Vancouver, the kind of muggy afternoon where the air feels heavy just before rain. The Canes had been house hunting for weeks, and it was wearing them down. With 2 kids and a tight budget, every dollar and square foot mattered. After weeks of searching, they'd narrowed it down to 2 houses. The first was a small modern condo, clean, safe, and well within budget, but cramped. The second was an older craftsman house in a quiet neighborhood. It was big enough for their family, with a finished basement they could rent out to help with the mortgage. It was more affordable than it should have been, which was its own red flag, but they couldn't pass up the potential. The Canes decided to visit the older house one last time before making a decision. The sky was overcast as they pulled into the driveway. 24-year-old Ethan parked the family's SUV and stepped out, followed by his parents, Anita and Raj, and his younger sibling Sarah. The drizzle had started, soft but steady, and the smell of wet earth filled the air. "I like this place," the dad said, trying to sound optimistic as he opened the lockbox and retrieved the keys. "Big enough for everyone, and we'd even have space for your art station, Anita," he said optimistically. "Let's just make sure the basement's good for renting," Anita replied. She glanced at Ethan. "You're going to be managing that, so pay attention." "Sure," Ethan muttered, not bothering to hide his annoyance. He wasn't thrilled about the idea of moving back in with his parents while saving for college, let alone dealing with tenants. But he knew better than to argue. The house was quiet as they stepped inside. The air was stale, with a faint smell of mildew. The creaky hardwood floors echoed under their feet as they wandered the main level, rechecking each room. "It's not bad," Raj said, standing by the large kitchen window that overlooked the street. "I think this is the one." Anita nodded. "Let's check the basement again. If we're renting it out, it has to be perfect." The basement was spacious but cold. Concrete walls lined with faint water stains made the space feel damp, and the smell of old wood lingered. Still, it had potential. A large main room, a laundry nook, and a half bath tucked in the corner. Anita paced, already envisioning how to set up a small kitchenette. "The layout's good," she said, running her hand along the wall. "But noise could be a problem. If the upstairs gets loud, tenants will complain. We'll have to be careful." As if on cue, heavy footsteps thundered above them. They froze. "What the hell?" Ethan muttered. "Maybe it's the agent," Raj offered, though he didn't sound convinced. "Or another buyer?" "That's not just walking," Anita said, frowning. "That's running. Ethan, go check. If it's this loud, renters will be a nightmare." Ethan groaned, but nodded. "Fine." He jogged up the stairs, his footsteps matching the creaks of the old wood. Upstairs, the house was silent. "Hello?" Ethan called out. He expected to hear voices, maybe see someone in the kitchen or living room, but there was no one. He checked the front door, still locked. The windows, too, were bolted shut. He walked through each room, glancing behind doors and into closets. The house was completely empty. As he passed the upstairs bathroom, he noticed something odd. The faucet was dripping. The sink was bone dry, but the faint sound of water persisted. He turned the handle, only to find it stiff and unyielding. The faucet wasn't on. His stomach twisted as he backed away, closing the bathroom door behind him. "Nothing up here," he called down, his voice wavering slightly. Ethan came back down the stairs, his face pale, his steps slower than before. He glanced at his parents, his lips pressed into a tight line. "There's no one upstairs," he said, his voice quiet. "Everything's locked, but it's weird." "What do you mean, weird?" Anita asked, her brows furrowing. "The bathroom faucet," Ethan replied, hesitating. "It sounded like it was dripping, but it wasn't on. And the sink was dry. I don't know. It's probably just old plumbing." Before Anita could respond, she held up a small, dusty frame she'd found in the kitchen. "I think this is weirder," she said, her tone low. Ethan stepped closer, peering at the faded photo. The picture showed a family. 2 parents and a little girl standing in front of the same house they were in now. The girl's expression wasn't quite a smile. Her eyes focused somewhere just past the camera. "I found it on the counter," Anita added. "It's making me nervous just looking at this picture." She then set the photo down on the counter. "Let's wrap this up. I don't want to stay here for too long," she said nervously. As they walked out of the door, the family heard it again. A loud thump. This time, it came from the basement. Anita froze, her hand tightening on the strap of her purse. "What was that?" "Let's go," Raj said, his voice firm. "We can think about this place later." No one argued. As they backed out of the driveway, sitting in the back, Sarah glanced up at the house one last time. Her eyes fell on an upstairs window, where the curtain swayed slightly. In the dim light, she thought she saw a shadow, small, another child, standing just behind the glass. But when she blinked, they was gone. "Did you see that?" she asked, her voice hushed. "See what?" Anita replied, her tone distracted. Sarah then shook her head. Nothing, Mom," said quickly. The car turned onto the main road, leaving the house behind. But something about it lingered in the Canes' mind, a faint unease they couldn't quite shake.